Hello everybody, my name is Benny and welcome to The Fool's Apprentice. Today I am going to be comparing and contrasting the Five of Pentacles from various decks. I'm going to let you know what I like. I'm going to let you know why I think these cards really are standout cards within each deck. And without any further ado, let's roll that tape. And I am back. So today we're going to be talking about the Five of Pentacles. As many of you already know, the Five of Pentacles is my favorite card in the deck. Always has been, always will be. Now my favorite card ever is actually the Lover's card in the, the Carte Postal Tarot. That one is my favorite card of all time. But when it comes to my favorite card in a deck, always the Five of Pentacles. So I thought it would be great to actually look. This is the Smith-Waite Tarot Centennial deck. This is the one that I prefer over all the other clones because the colors aren't as garish and assaulting on the eyes as this one. And so this is a traditional looking one. It has a man and a woman passing by, five pentacles in a window, and which is a church, like a stained glass window. And you could see that they're dealing with a lot of hardships with the elements. They appear to be homeless. One person is, ill or injured, and they're just trudging along trying to make it one step at a time. What's important for me in these cards is that there seems to be a sense of hope. That's what I'm always looking in the card. And the church with the stained glass window is that hope for me within the card. If it's missing anything that allows for hope to occur, then it's not really a Five of Pentacles that's going to work for me. As I've mentioned before in other videos, the reason this is my favorite card is that growing up, it was rough. We were very, very poor. But there always seemed to be a sense of hope within the family. As long as we were together, as long as, we had one another to lean on, things just seemed to be okay. Now, when you grow up poor and you've always been poor, you don't know that you're poor until you go to somebody else's house and you're like, wow, this is nice. And you open the refrigerator and it has all this stuff, that you could eat, which was when I first saw my neighbor's refrigerator, I was blown away. But we went to church on Sundays and we would go to get government cheese at the church as well. That's where we went, to survive. And it always gave us just enough of what we needed to make it through the day. So that's why that's one of my favorite cards. And also, I see my mom in this woman, very determined. She's on her last legs, but she's not giving up and she's taking with him. My mother's not going to leave anybody behind. So the first card is from the Tarot of the Abyss. And this particular card I really like. It depicts a woman holding on to another person, another woman. And here's the church behind them, or what I think is a church. It could be a shelter. But if you look at the windows, they're filled with people. And there's somebody at the door, blocking it, letting them know that they can't come in. And they're going to have to go into the elements and they're going to have to figure it out. And it might be just going shelter to shelter, trying to find a bed. But whatever happens, they're going to be together. She has somebody to rely on right now, as in turn, she may end up having to rely on her at one time or another. But The fact that there's a shelter, there's a place that they can go. They may not be able to go there tonight, but they might be able to go there tomorrow. There's that sense of hope there for me. And if there's one shelter here, there has to be another shelter somewhere else. That's how I see this. But most importantly is that relationship between these women is what binds them together and helps them move forward, because they're relying on one another to live. If this woman was by herself, she would perish. No questions asked. And I love that it's in a black and white, because I think it really adds to the despair. Now, the Five of Pentacles really does speak to the material world. So financial hardship, loneliness, isolation, not having enough food, being sick, all those kinds of things that deal within the material world. So that's the Tarot of the Abyss. So next is the Spacious Tarot. Now, let me tell you, when I first started reading tarot and I pulled out the cards, I was like, I couldn't get it because I didn't know the cards well. I couldn't see the cards without all the elements within the card. And then like 2 years later, they had it on sale for like $35. So I just bought it to have it. And I can read it now, which is amazing. So here is a dog or a wolf that is on its last legs right here, right? But it has a goal, and the goal is to reach the top of this hill, and in hopes that there is something there that will help him survive or help her survive. But it's not going to be an easy journey. Even though you could see where you want to be, it still has to go up this hill, which may be very difficult to do because they're sick, they don't have the energy, maybe their muscles are really weak, but it's that grit and determination that's going to get you up there, this will to survive. So what I think is important in this card is also knowing that even though you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, it doesn't mean that it's not going to be hard to get there, but it's possible to get there if you just keep taking one step after another. And it looks like, what do you call it? Stonehenge, where the stones all around, where magical things can occur. That's why this wolf, I think, is trying to get there, is because a miracle just might happen for him too. So, and I like the colors because it's really grounded in earth. That one was pretty quick, right? Tarot of Echoes. I wish I would have bought a backup of this one. I can't believe I didn't. I love the backs. These backs are absolutely stunning. So, the Five of Pentacles here. What I love about this Five of Pentacles above all else is that the mother and child, I'm assuming it's the mom, are at the forefront of this image. You can actually see her despair. You can see her how difficult life has been. And more than likely, she no longer has a home because it looks like everything she owns is in this sack. She's holding on to her most precious child, and she's just moving across this cathedral. It looks like a cathedral to me. There is hope in here, and I'm trying to find the Five of Pentacles, which I think are those, that like flower fan thing right here. And here, again, probably not accepted into the church, but the church is still a place of hope. That's why you go there. You may not get what you want. You might not get what you need, but the idea that that's a place where it's possible, I think, is important. I like that it's raining and it's drab, and it just gives you this whole picture of misery that they're experiencing in this moment. I do not think that this is where they're going to be forever, because of the fact that life changes. What goes down must go up. And I think the church, again, is that possibility where things can change. The artwork is amazing, isn't it? Can't believe I didn't get a backup. I don't know why. I think I was being cheap. Oh my gosh. Okay. The Savvy Soul Tarot, one of my favorite decks of all time, which I was so lucky to get. So many people want this deck. Here is depicting a man with a sign seeking human kindness. There again is a church in the background with somebody who's flourishing. I don't know if you can see that, but there is this woman back here with a gentleman receiving flowers, or a child, and they're just living their best life while this person's living probably their worst life. And it states at the bottom, a victim mindset often creates situations of suffering. And I have this belief system where, pain is pain. You're not going to be able to avoid it, and if you could stay present with that pain, you're just going to experience it. However, it's when you push back on the pain, not wanting the pain to be there, being angry that you're in pain. All these things that really push the pain and try to get it out of you, all those thoughts really do create suffering, because it's the thinking that makes that pain worse. If your pain is at a level 6 and you stay there, the pain's going to be at level 6. But if you're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. Why does it have to be me? God, why did you forsake me? All of a sudden, your pain is not a 6 anymore. It's an 8. And it's just because of your thinking patterns. And I really like that. So what really breaks me with this particular card is the seeking of human kindness. I think one of the worst things people can suffer from is loneliness. Not having somebody who can be present with you through the hard times and the good times. Not having somebody that you could talk to and cry on their shoulder, or someone to celebrate a huge accomplishment, I think is a really, really awful place to be. And you just sometimes, one of the things that I do often is I just randomly smile at people purposefully, and they tend to smile back. Or I tend to thank people who do, jobs that I'm glad I don't have to do, like the baggers at the grocery store. I always thank them, and I always call them by name. And that's the first thing I do. I go in the line and I try to read the name on the name tag. And if I find it, I'm like, thank you very much for Benny. I really appreciate it. And it just creates a little smile. And you never know what it's going to do just to be kind. And I just love that this card brings that up for me. And, I may not be in that place, but maybe I'll meet somebody who is, and all they're seeking is human kindness. So it's a nice reminder that little things can have a huge impact on another human being. Okay, the Terra Volatile. I really, really, really like this card. It's very, very similar, as you could see. But it looks like you're passing the church, because the steps are here and they're just walking by. And for me, it's like, sometimes you get so caught up in your misery that you can't see the help that's just right in front of you. And so you have this man and child, and the man is, physically not doing well because he's using a cane, and it could be just because he's exhausted, or maybe he's injured, but he's got this sack that he's having to carry as well with all his possessions. But for me, this card really speaks to not seeing the help when it's there. And sometimes it just might be because you're so filled with your thoughts, which creates a suffering, remember, that you just cannot see when a hand is being reached out to you, that you don't grab it to get out of where you're at. There's snow, they're barefoot, so there must be in pain when it comes to their feet. But I really, really like this image quite a bit. I like the color tones, the underlying blue and grays. Just a lovely card. So this one really is about, not being able to see where help is or where help is being offered. That's how I tend to see this card. All right, what do we got next? This might hurt. Okay, so this one's really interesting. It's very different from the other ones. The other ones usually have two people going in the same direction. Here you have two different people having similar experiences. One is sitting in despair right next to the church, and the other is walking either towards or past this person, depending on your perspective. And for me, this just lets me know that, I'm not alone, that there are other people out there who are having challenges in their lives as well, and that it's not always about me. Granted, it's all relative, but, sometimes one person who's down and out helping another person who's down and out does two wonderful things. This person all of a sudden feels like they've done something good, which fills their heart. And then someone receives something from someone else who they thought they would never get or think that they would get, and it fills their heart. And it just gives them just enough to keep moving forward. I just love this idea of not being alone in your suffering. It's a beautiful, beautiful card. And there's the church again with its bright lights, its stained glass window. But that's how I see this particular card. And, I think it's the only card that I can recall where you actually have two different people having a similar experience. All right. Some of these decks I'm going to get to start using because it's fall. The Darkness of Light is one of them. I don't get to use this deck as much as I want to. All right, the Darkness of Light. I love this depiction. People aren't the only ones that suffer. They're just not. And it's cold, it's raining, he's alone. I'm assuming it's a he, it could be a she. And they found shelter and they're going to go in. There may not be food. There may not be a warm bed. There may be a blanket on the floor, but he'll be able to get out of the elements, which is less suffering. And we have two coins at the bottom. And for me, that pretty much depicts that, even within shelter, things can be pretty bad. It hasn't been kept up. There's no sense of anyone taking care of this shelter, which is probably also another church. But regardless, there is refuge, enough refuge that, this dog's going to survive the night. But more importantly for me is I have to remember that, animals suffer too. I have two dogs. They rely on me for everything. And if I don't give them water, if I don't have food for them, they'll suffer. They'll be hungry, they'll be thirsty, and if enough time passes by, they'll be dead. So this is a clear reminder that it's not always about me, it's about other animals as well. Now, I find this one pretty interesting, the Majestic Tarot. I ended up getting the special edition. I didn't even realize it was a special edition when I got this. Now, okay, so this is really interesting. All right. So when I first saw this car, I just saw these trees, this huge cathedral in the back, because you could see, I don't know if you could see it here. Let's see. I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but there's 3 crosses up on top. Oh, man, I don't think you will. So there's 3 crosses. And then I see the crutches on the side. Here's one, and here's the other. Right there and right there. And so I'm looking at this card thinking, how is this representative of the 5 of Pentacles? And I'm thinking, did this person perish? Were they eaten? Were they killed? You know, because they're out in the wilderness because the 2 crutches. And then, as I stared at it, oh my God, I hope you can see it. Here is the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And here is this person praying. And it blew me away when I saw this. There is hope. And this okay, I'll tell you what this reminds me of. But there is hope in faith. There is hope in this person's religion. And so he stops in the middle of nowhere and prays to Jesus for whatever he needs. And what is also really interesting to me is that his crutch is way over here. So I'm thinking he saw Jesus Christ, dropped his crutch, dropped his other crutch, and was able to walk over and pray. That is the power of faith. There's this picture. I don't know if I've shared this on the channel or not. I struggled with my mother's faith because I was traumatized by our religion growing up as a gay youth. And my mother's a devout Catholic. And so I really struggled with her faith quite a bit. But I ended up on life support. And somebody came over and took a picture. And the picture shows me in a bed with swollen legs and all these tubes and wires all over me, and a tube down my throat to help me breathe. And my mother is standing next to me, and she has her rosary beads spread out from hand to hand over my body, and she's praying. And I'm looking at my mother, and I see that she's at peace, that no matter what happens, she's going to be okay because she has God. And when I saw that, it really helped me see the power of faith, you know, and prayer. And even though I may not believe the same way, I get the importance of what her faith means to her. And in that moment, the fact that my mother was okay and was going to be okay no matter what, made me realize that faith is probably one of the most important things people can have in their life. And that faith comes through hope. And so there's that hope that things can get better. And for me, I was very lucky. I was very lucky that I made it through and that my mother was okay through that whole journey. Now, this is an interesting one too. The Art of Life. I really like this deck quite a bit. But they're famous paintings and with quotes. And I like this one because you see a woman, looks like she's having brunch or lunch. And if you look at her face, she's really, really sad. She looks depressed. And then there's this guy on the right smoking a pipe and just engaged with somebody else. And it says, resolve to be thyself and know that who finds himself loses his misery. And I sat with that for a while. And really, for me, that kind of means learning to be your authentic self. When you have to live up to expectations of other people, and be something you're not, and do pleasantries, and smile when you don't want to smile, and pretend you like somebody that you don't, that can weigh you down, and you just don't like the way you feel about yourself. And so when it says, and know that who finds himself loses his misery, that really is an absolute true statement for me, because there was a point in my life where looking in the mirror was almost an impossibility without me falling apart and crying, because I did not like who was coming back. But as I worked on myself and started treating myself better, I got to a place where I really started to like who I was. And in that process, I learned how to be my own best friend, which led to me loving the man in the mirror. And I like who I see today. And it's because I've learned how to be true to myself above all else. Doesn't mean I have to be rude, crude, or ugly towards people I don't necessarily like. But I could be pleasant. I could be civil. And it be authentic. I'm just being kind in the process. So this Five of Pentacles really is about looking within so that you could live a good life and liking who you see yourself in the mirror. Because who wants to live like this? I surely don't. Another way of looking at this card is, to thy own self be true. I think that's a good way of looking at this card. All right, so we are down to our last one, which is the Bone, Stone, and Earth Tarot. This is the indie version. And this is another beautiful card. This one depicts a whole family in a shelter that they built themselves. And when you're dealing with misery related to the elements, it can take more than one person to, get things together to make sure you could weather the storm. And here you have a whole family who has been able to create a shelter, because one person may have been able to do it, but would have they been able to do it in time? And again, knowing that I love this idea of being able to have one another to get through it. There's just a sense of comfort in that. You can look over to each other, hold each other's hand. You can give somebody a hug. Here, cuddling a child. Here, holding on to a loved one. But the idea of having that human connection to get through this very difficult part of your life, I think speaks volumes to that idea of it takes a village, and sometimes it really does. It's just a beautiful depiction. I think this is the first time that it really deals with a family. With they showed the dog, they showed one person approaching another. Here you have a whole family. So I don't know if there's another deck that has a whole family that are working together to make it through. But I really like this. You could see the wind is just really blowing. It's bending these trees in there. So sometimes you just got to be humble and allow other people in. So that's what this card means to me. Relying on family and friends. Because sometimes if we don't, we're just not going to make it. Or suffering's going to end up being a lot worse. Okay. Well, let me turn the camera over and I'll have some parting words. I'm back. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I liked comparing the different types of Five of Pentacles. In fact, I went through a lot of my decks trying to find different Five of Pentacles that could mean different things, even just a little bit. These were some really interesting ones for me, and I ended up finding some from decks that I didn't expect would have one, like the Art of Life and the Majestic Earth. Those were surprises for me. But overall, I think this really helped me kind of get a better grasp of the Five of Pentacles, because I've not done this with the Five of Pentacles. So I think that's a really good practice for me to do with others. Other cards, I don't think I'm going to do videos for all of them. In fact, this is probably the last one of this type of series that I did. So I did the Three of Swords, the Eight of Wands, and the Five of Pentacles, and I think I'm done. Because those are the ones that I really wanted to do a video like this for. But the next time, my name is Benny, and I am the Fool's Apprentice. Bye.